Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing really good. It's go to your own research. It's actually dropped below 30 degrees. I thought I'd take a chance and put the camera back on. It's still so hot though. Like it's 24 degrees at this time, which is, I think, 75 Fahrenheit. I was actually looking at some of my videos and it's literally been this hot consistently every day for over 2 months now. And we've not had rain either. So it really has been a crazy time and I'm still sweating and my hair's frizzy, but I just didn't want people to think that I don't want to show my face. But so here I am. Anyway, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to try and talk super loud. So I haven't spoken about the Blake Lively case for a while, but then it come to my attention that someone who we have spoken about, or I made a whole video about it, has filed a lawsuit, and it's involving Bryan Freedman. So I'm like, okay, I don't think it's normal for a lawyer to be named in as many lawsuits as Bryan Freedman, but I don't know, someone let me know. But here he is again. So yeah, apparently this was filed like 6 days ago, but I totally missed it. James Vituscka, like I said, we did a video about him a while ago, which I actually brought up on my channel. So wait, let me do this first. Right, so this is the lawsuit. Oh. There we go. Yeah, he's suing Mail Media Inc. individually and something BA Daily Mail. Yeah. So yeah, we made this video, or I made this video a while ago. Proof it was retaliation and not organic. Melissa Nathan Tag PR. In that video, we went through a whole bunch of conversations which showed that Melissa Nathan, who, by the way, Melissa Nathan has made a statement in the Daily Mail complaining that content creators keep talking about her and they don't have any legal experience. And I'm like, well, I don't really need legal experience to speak about you. Thank you very much. But yeah, she kept telling him stories. He was asking her to give him stories about Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, neither of whom were her clients. That's why I said it was retaliation and not organic, because why else would she be talking about them when they had nothing to do with her or her client? Actually forgot to show it. I'm a bit rusty. There we go. That one. Proof it was retaliation and not organic. So yeah, that's who I'm talking about. That guy there. And yeah, his name's been involved in this whole saga since the beginning, because Bryan Freedman made him the scapegoat. Right, so let's get into it. You are hereby summoned to answer the complaint in this action and to serve a copy of your answer, or if the complaint is not served with this summons, to serve a notice of appearance on plaintiff's attorney within 20 days under the service of summons, exclusive of the day of service, or not within 30 days after the service is complete. Okay, and it's signed by RK Law Group. It's either RK or RSA. So quickly look them up. And they're a New York-based firm, and it says fighting sexual harassment and workplace discrimination. So obviously that's their speciality. So I'm like, oh, okay, this should be interesting. Because originally he was represented at the start, going back to when he got fired from the Daily Mail. Yeah, he got fired from the Daily Mail. I left that bit out. He was represented by a criminal attorney, Mark Garagos, who has represented Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, P. Diddy, you know, those kind of people. He's also been accused or been named as a co-conspirator with that Aventi guy. Right, so yeah, that's who's representing him now. And it says, nature of the case. Supreme Court of State of New York, this is, by the way. Nature of the case, defendant Daily Mail publicly portrays itself as one of the world's largest and most, I'm going to try and say this with a straight face, influential news publishers, renowned for its agenda-setting exclusives, breaking news, incisive commentary, and in-depth investigations. There's a little footnote. That's from its own website. Because I think that could be factually challenged. Despite that public image, defendant Daily Mail sought to control what one of its own reporters could say in connection with federal litigation and retaliated against him when he repeatedly objected. Plaintiff, a successful investigative reporter, yep, wonderful investigations he does, asking Melissa Nathan for made-up stories, objected to signing a sworn declaration that he reasonably believed contained false and misleading statements for use in federal litigation, sought to preserve his ability to testify truthfully pursuant to a lawful subpoena, and attempted to retain independent legal counsel to protect his individual interests. Rather than respect those efforts, defendant Daily Mail retaliated against him as set forth below. So I just find this very ironic. Defendant Daily Mail's retaliation was deliberate and escalating. It discouraged plaintiff from obtaining independent legal counsel, pressured him to sign a sworn declaration despite his repeated written objections, interfered with his participation in a judicial proceeding, stripped him of his reporting responsibilities and bylines, while his professional reputation was publicly attacked, and ultimately fired him just 11 days after receiving correspondence from his counsel. Defendant Daily Mail's retaliation did not arise in isolation. Months earlier, after plaintiff rejected a supervisor's sexually suggestive advance, that supervisor's treatment of plaintiff changed materially. As alleged below, That hostility resurfaced through the events giving rise to this action and culminated in plaintiff's termination. My brain's already going a million miles an hour. He has to be protected against sexual harassment, surely. Plaintiff complains pursuant to the New York State Executive Law, the Administrative Code of the City of New York, the New York Labor Law, here we go, and the New York Common Law, seeking damages to redress the injuries he has suffered as a result of being discriminated against on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability, together with creating a hostile work environment, retaliation, whistleblower retaliation, sexual harassment, interference with a protected right, and unlawful termination. Wow. Plaintiff is a male resident of the state of New York, County of Kings. At all times material, defendant, Daily Mail, was and is a foreign corporation, duly incorporated under the laws of the state of Delaware. At all times, so they're British, right? Because the first time I read that, I was like, wait, what? The Daily Mail is American? But then I'm like, oh, they have a company in America which is under their ownership. At all times material, defendant, Daily Mail, was and is authorized to conduct business in the state of New York and does conduct business in the state of New York. At all times material, defendant, Daily Mail, operated the U.S. publishing business for the Daily Mail newspaper and website, maintaining its principal place of business at 51 Astor Place, New York, New York. At all times material, defendant, Daily Mail, was and is the US-based subsidiary of the UK-based Daily Mail and General Trust. At all times material, plaintiff was an employee of defendant, Daily Mail. Okay. Very, very interesting. Setting the tone. Material facts. Plaintiff's employment and outstanding performance at defendant, Daily Mail. In or around February 2022, plaintiff began working for defendant, Daily Mail as a senior U.S. entertainment reporter. In that role, plaintiff investigated, developed, and published exclusive entertainment news stories, regularly covering high-profile celebrities and industry events. Plaintiff consistently performed at a high level throughout his employment, generating several million page views each month and publishing stories which were frequently republished by news outlets around the world. So I just was reading this earlier and I noticed how they equate how many views the story gets. With how a good reporter they are. In fact, in or around October 2024, plaintiff received a meritorious rise from editor-in-chief Katie Davis and managing editor Richard Ellis. So I think in that video that I was showing earlier, I did actually look some of these people up. I think I looked up Katie Davis. I'm not sure about Richard Ellis. For his excellent work and high traffic contributions, which increased his salary from $100,000 to approximately $122,000, 120. That's a lot of money. to write bullshit. Plaintiff also developed content for defendant Daily Mail's flagship subscription platform, Mail Plus, where he became one of its highest performing contributors. I mean, it's not like he's like literally out in war zones, doing secret reporting. I don't know. Seems like he just does most of it from text messages. Going undercover. Plaintiffs reporting on the Baldoni Lively matter and his involvement in the subsequent litigation. Plaintiff's success depended on cultivated relationships with celebrity publicists and industry sources, one of whom was actress Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, who had previously provided plaintiff with information leading to numerous exclusive stories. In or around early August 2024, defendant Daily Mail assigned plaintiff to investigate reports of tension between Ms. Lively and actor-director Justin Baldoni during production of the film It Ends With Us. The other thing I was going to say is I didn't realise he'd only worked there since 2022. He's only been there like 2 years. During production of the film It Ends With Us. I'm not sure if I said that or not. On August 8th, 2024, plaintiff contacted Ms. Sloan, Leslie Sloan, regarding those reports. During that conversation, Ms. Sloan described Mr. Baldoni as the source of the on-set conflict. She never stated that Mr. Baldoni had sexually harassed or assaulted Ms. Lively. Then, on December 20th, 2024, Ms. Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department alleging sexual harassment by Mr. Baldoni. 2 days later, after reading a New York Times article discussing Ms. Lively's complaint, plaintiff texted Mr. Baldoni's PR crisis manager, Melissa Nathan, contrasting Ms. Lively's allegations in the CRD and the New York Times article with what Ms. Sloan had previously told him, writing in pertinent part, I literally could have told you this off the top of my head, I've read it so many times. Ms. Sloan said the whole cast hates Justin. This has nothing to do with Blake, and now she's saying that Ms. Lively was SA'd, sexually assaulted. Why wouldn't she say anything about that then? Although plaintiff inadvertently used the phrase sexually assaulted instead of harassed, plaintiff clearly established that Ms. Sloan told him the dispute had nothing to do with Ms. Lively and that he never claimed Ms. Sloan had mentioned sexual harassment or assault to him. Okay, just make sure all you people at the back heard that. Because the thing is, you can say, well, this guy is not trustworthy, he makes up stuff in the papers, blah, blah, blah. But he actually had text messages of this conversation. So we know it happened. On December 25th, Christmas Day, this should have been his biggest red flag. These people are texting me on Christmas Day. Plaintiff again reaffirmed his communications with Miss Sloan in a group text with Miss Nathan and Mr. Baldoni's attorney, Bryan Freedman, stating, in relevant part, never once did Ms. Sloan mention anything about sexual harassment? Yeah? So while everyone else was having a lovely day, cooking their Christmas dinners, opening their presents, doing whatever else they do, Melissa Nathan and Bryan Freedman were busy planning their strategy on how they were going to sue on behalf of Justin Baldoni, their innocent client. Plaintiff's communications with Mr. Freedman occurred in the ordinary course of his reporting on a rapidly developing and highly public controversy. Like investigative reporters covering contentious matters, plaintiff communicated with individuals representing different perspectives. Plaintiff communicated with individuals representing differing perspectives. They were both representing their clients. But okay. To understand and verify competing accounts. Plaintiffs did not anticipate that portions of those communications would later be selectively quoted in litigation, while omitting his subsequent clarifying statements. Nevertheless, on December 31st, 2024, Mr. Freedman filed a lawsuit against the New York Times that included screenshots. The New York Times does actually do investigative journalism. However, if anyone has watched my Luigi Mangione video, which I know hardly anybody has, even though I think it's really good, a whistleblower showed how they manipulated public opinion in their coverage of Luigi Mangione, trying to make him out to be a terrorist. That included screenshots of plaintiff's text messages, name and photograph. So Christmas Day, they were plotting their putting their evidence, their made-up evidence together, and New Year's Eve, they filed the lawsuit against the New York Times. When plaintiff learned that these texts were included in the lawsuit, what a happy New Year. Happy Christmas, happy New Year. When plaintiff learned that these texts were included in the lawsuit, he immediately contacted Bryan Freedman and Ms. Nathan, demanding removal of his name and photo. On January 2nd, so that's a whole 3 days later, because you got New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then the next day. Okay, 2 days. I'll give him 2 days. Mr. Freedman filed an erratum to the lawsuit, redacting plaintiff's name and photo from the text message screenshots. So for 2 days, his name and picture were associated with that lawsuit, but having everyone believe that there was an allegation of sexual assault by Justin Baldoni. SMH. On January 16th, 2025, Mr. Freedman filed a lawsuit against Ms. Lively and Ms. Sloan, alleging defamation. In doing so, he selectively quoted plaintiff's December 22nd, 2024 text message to Ms. Nathan, stripped of its surrounding context, and falsely alleged that per plaintiff, Ms. Sloan had told him that Ms. Lively had been essayed by Mr. Baldoni. Plaintiff never made that statement. See, I don't need to have expertise in law to understand what is going on here, Melissa Nathan. I also don't need to have expertise to know that you definitely, or you pretty obviously, worked for Jeffrey Epstein under your boss, Matthew Hiltzig, because you were scheduled to go to a meeting at his office, at his house, An invoice was paid, and then evidence was shown in the Epstein files that you were attending the meeting. There was nothing about you weren't going. After that meeting, there was correspondence going on with his lawyer, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. Invoices were sent, contracts were drawn up, and advice was given for at least 2 or 3 months. In, I believe it was 2017. See? That's all in the Epstein files. Fact-based. If it's not true, or if anything that's been said about you is not true, show us where we're wrong. Show us you didn't go to that meeting because you were ill or something. Where was I? By publicly attributing false statements to plaintiff, the litigation thrust plaintiff into the center of a nationally publicized dispute. It was actually internationally publicized because it reached me all the way over here. Those events in turn became the basis for defendant Daily Mail's subsequent efforts to control plaintiff's legal representation, dictate the contents of his sworn declaration, and influence how he responded to judicial process. Mr. Ellis subjected plaintiff to sexual harassment and retaliation. I just cannot believe this. I did not see this one coming. On or about December 6, 2024, Mr. Ellis randomly summoned plaintiff to his office, falsely accused him of scratching the elevator door. I was like, what? And asserted that repairs would cost approximately $2,350. Plaintiff denied scratching the door and requested that Mr. Ellis review the security camera footage. Mr. Ellis refused plaintiff's request. However, later that day, Mr. Ellis admitted to plaintiff via Slack that there was insufficient evidence to blame him, writing, "As your judge, jury, and executioner, I rule that the evidence is not clear beyond reasonable doubt. So let's put this all behind us and get on with our lives." I haven't actually looked this person up. Mr. Ellis, I don't know what his first name is. I'm not going to look him up. That evening, defendant Daily Mail held its annual holiday party at the Somewhere Nowhere lounge. Shortly after plaintiff arrived, Mr. Ellis approached him, looked plaintiff up and down, and stated in a seductive and flirtatious manner, I'm still trying to figure out a way for you to repay me for the elevator. I was trying to figure out a way to say that in a seductive manner. I'm still trying to figure out a way for you to repay me for the elevator. I don't get it. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it is funny. Plaintiff understood the remark to be sexually suggestive. He stood silently and refused to engage, fearing retaliation if he confronted the managing editor. The managing editor. Executive editor Emma Powell noticed plaintiff's discomfort and intervened by pulling plaintiff away on the defense of taking group photographs. So we definitely looked up Emma Powell, I think, in that video. Nevertheless, following plaintiff's rejection of Mr. Ellis's sexual advance, Mr. Ellis's treatment of plaintiff changed markedly, As set forth below, Mr. Ellis then engaged in a sustained pattern of hostility toward plaintiff that culminated in plaintiff's termination. Defendant, I mean, one thing I did learn from following the Blake Lively case in great detail was, by definition of sexual harassment in the workplace, it normally has to involve a few things. Like, one thing can be taken as a one-off remark, but it has to be like a few things. Like, it's normally like a collective thing, a collective number of things that cause an atmosphere of hostility based around harassment, sexual harassment of a sexual nature. But if someone does make a sexual harassment, even if it was only for one thing, it still has to be investigated. Yeah, I meant accumulative, not collective, I think. And again, I mean, there was so much argument in the Blake Lively case about whether it was sexual harassment or not. But it kind of missed the point. A complaint about sexual harassment was made. There wasn't anyone to investigate it. Well, there was, but they didn't investigate it. And the complaints of sexual harassment were made by other people besides Blake Lively, aka Jenny Slate. What's her name? Alex Sachs, the producer, who Justin Baldoni had shouted at on 2 occasions. And she said, if you do that again, I'm going to walk off the set. She had kind of escalated it and said, this needs to be looked into, this needs to be resolved. So as things started to get more uncomfortable, I think Blake Lively looked back at was a bit like, hang on a minute. The first time he spoke to me, he said something about his private parts, and then he started asking my trainer about how much I was going to weigh. And it's like, suddenly little things that don't mean that much in themselves, when you put them all together, it's creating an atmosphere. And like, the main point was, it wasn't investigated. But as the judge said, she had grounds to file the complaint because she believed there was sexual harassment, and that was within the law. All right. Defendant Daily Mail prevented plaintiff from obtaining independent counsel and attempted to control his participation in the Lively Baldoni litigation. In or around April 2025, Ms. Sloan's counsel personally served plaintiff with 2 subpoenas, one requiring the production of documents, and another requiring plaintiff's deposition testimony in the Lively Baldoni litigation. After Mr. Baldoni alleged defamation against Ms. Sloan as part of the January 16, 2025 lawsuit, Ms. Sloan moved for sanctions, subpoenaing plaintiff in the process. I don't think I knew that. Okay. Defendant Daily Mail was also subpoenaed for documents related to that same litigation. Now, all those people that say journalistic privilege, or whatever it is. Don't remember. Well, let's see if they said it. Recognizing that his personal legal interests could diverge from defendant Daily Mail's corporate interests, plaintiff immediately informed defendant Daily Mail's in-house attorney, Beth Lobel, that he intended to retain his own counsel to advise him regarding the individual subpoenas. Oh, okay. Let me say that again. Let me just read that again. Recognizing that his personal legal interests could diverge from defendant Daily Mail's corporate interests. I don't know what he means by that. Diverge. Plaintiff immediately informed defendant Daily Mail's in-house attorney, Beth Lobel, that he intended to retain his own counsel to advise him regarding the individual subpoenas. However, Miss Lobel told plaintiff not to get his own lawyer because doing so would betray the company. I feel like we're not getting the whole story here. She further warned plaintiff that it's best not to have emails creating a record. Defendant Daily Mail's efforts to prevent plaintiff from retaining independent counsel were not limited to its legal department. Deputy Editor Chelsea Ritchell likewise instructed plaintiff that retaining outside counsel would be a mistake and that he needed to put the company first. I don't get why he needed to get his own counsel. Am I being really dumb? Reinforcing defendant Daily Mail's directive that plaintiff subordinate his own legal interests to those of the organization. Under this combined pressure, plaintiff did not retain independent counsel and instead relied upon attorneys who prioritized defendant Daily Mail's rights over his. Throughout April 2025, Ms. Lobel repeatedly made statements intended to pressure plaintiff into believing he was personally responsible for defendant Daily Mail's legal expenses and to discourage him from exercising his independent judgment. Okay. Be interesting to see the response to this. For example, Ms. Lobel told plaintiff, "This is your fault for getting us involved." It should be a lesson to you. This should be a lesson in empathy on how to treat people you interview. Your conversation with Mr. Freedman have nothing to do with defendant Daily Mail. And this is costing the company so much money to represent you. Defendant Daily Mail's efforts to control plaintiff's legal representation soon expanded into efforts to control the manner and substance of his response to the subpoenas. For example, in or around late May through early June 2025, despite plaintiff's explicit objections, defendant Daily Mail coordinated with Ms. Sloan's counsel to respond to plaintiff's subpoena through a sworn declaration, rather than by permitting plaintiff to produce documents and testify at a deposition. Plaintiff repeatedly objected to the use of a sworn declaration in lieu of responding to the subpoenas through document production and deposition testimony, given the antics of Mr. Baldoni and his legal team, along with the missing context, which had already harmed plaintiff's reputation. Plaintiff consistently asked to preserve his ability to provide truthful testimony pursuant to the lawful subpoenas. Defendant Daily Mail pressured plaintiff to sign a declaration he believed was false or misleading. Give me 1 second. Oh. Oh. Do you know what it is? When I've got the fan blowing at me, I've realised it's making dust go in my nose. That's why my nose itches when I'm doing this. Okay. The plot thickens. Throughout the drafting process, plaintiff repeatedly identified statements in the proposed declaration that he believed were false, misleading, or unsupported by his own knowledge. For example, on May 22nd, 2025, plaintiff objected to language stating that he regretted his actions because that language did not accurately reflect his views. Then, on or about June 4th, 2025, plaintiff participated in a Zoom meeting with defendant Daily Mail's legal team, again without independent counsel present on his behalf. After counsel continued pressing for the disputed language, despite plaintiff's objections, plaintiff again asserted that he would not agree to characterize his actions as something he regretted. Despite plaintiff's repeated objections, the word regret still appeared twice in the final declaration. Plaintiff then Slack messaged Ms. Powell and Ms. Ritchell. I was super uneasy with how I was being gaslighted into thinking I was the one to blame. I have really no other option than to sign the declaration because Miss Sloan is really coming for me and wants to silence me. Remember when him and Melissa Nathan were having a conversation about playing the victim? I do. Anyway, on the morning of June 5th, 2025, plaintiff learned that if he signed the declaration, Ms. Sloan would withdraw the subpoena served upon plaintiff, except as to certain communications with Mr. Freedman, and the subpoena served upon defendant Daily Mail. This reinforced plaintiff's belief that the declaration was being used as a negotiated litigation device rather than simply to memorialize his truthful recollection. Later that day, plaintiff also objected to language stating that he did not authorize Mr. Baldoni or his counsel to include his text messages in their filings, explaining that he could not truthfully state what had or had not been authorized. Well, I thought he said he explicitly said or implicitly said Oh. Oh, yeah, he told them to take it out afterwards. I seem to remember he did say that. Okay. When Miss Lobel insisted that plaintiffs sign, he again refused to sign the declaration with language that he did not authorize publication of his text messages. Counsel nevertheless continued urging plaintiff to execute the declaration. Feeling like his objections were being ignored, plaintiff then emailed Ms. Ritchell and Ms. Powell. I had to send this because I cannot sign something unless I am 1,000,000%. That afternoon, Ms. Lobel entered the newsroom and hostilely asked plaintiff, "Have you signed the declaration? Why have you not signed it? You need to sign it. There is a court deadline." When plaintiff requested that Ms. Davies review the declaration first, Ms. Lobel replied, "Why would Ms. Davies need to see this? She knows nothing about the lawsuit." Plaintiff then texted Ms. Powell, "I literally could never work again. I don't think I'm going to sign it. My gut says no. I'm being yelled at for not signing it." I mean, I don't think he's worked again anyway. Ms. Ritchell then instructed plaintiff, "Sign it. Ms. Davis just asked that you sign it and get it all done." He's done that in bold. Plaintiff responded, "This is so ridiculous. No one wants to understand or listen as to why I don't want to do it." Why didn't you want to do it? Defendant Daily Mail abandoned plaintiff while publicly exploiting the declaration, and plaintiff engaged in further protected whistleblower activity. On or about June 5th, 2025, at approximately 3:30 p.m., after hours of escalating pressure from defendant Daily Mail's legal and editorial leadership, plaintiff reluctantly signed the declaration while seated next to his colleague Diana Cooper. Immediately before signing, plaintiff wrote, "I don't feel completely comfortable in doing this," on a piece of paper and placed it next to the declaration before executing it. He then showed both the note and the executed declaration to Ms. Cooper. The executed declaration stated in relevant part, "In those text messages, my use of the phrase sexually assaulted was a mistake. I meant to say sexually harassed. I regret this error. I did not authorize Mr. Baldoni or his counsel to include my text messages in their filings. I regret that private text messages were made public." Both users of the word regret, as well as the statements that plaintiff did not authorize publication of his text messages, remained in the declaration, despite plaintiff's repeated written objections. Plaintiff's objection to signing a declaration under coercion amounted to protect a whistleblower activity. I don't know what to make of this guy, seriously. I do know that in another case that Mark Garagos represented, it's actually a senator called Joe Dunn. He tried a similar strategy, is that what you call it? As Vituscka. He was going to be debarred going to be fired as a senator. Was he a senator or an attorney? Sorry, I think he was like a high up attorney. Like he was more than just an attorney. He was like in an executive role, and he'd been caught taking bribes. And then he did a similar thing. Instead of like admitting to messing up, he was like, I was a whistleblower, and they've done this. They fired me for retaliation. I was going to say that this was happening. You know who else is doing it right now as well? Speaking of Mark Garagos, Vincent Armen in the Michael Jackson case is trying to act like he was a whistleblower. He was trying to help the Arviso family, not hold them hostage. I know it's like 20 years later, but I can see through that shit. Later that evening, plaintiff learned that Deadline was preparing a story concerning the declaration based on information provided by Ms. Sloan. Concerned that the reporting would falsely portray him, plaintiff immediately notified defendant Daily Mail's legal department, requested legal assistance, and asked for an opportunity to respond before publication. Plaintiff was then referred to Head of Internal Communications Mark Bryan. The next morning, on June 6th, 2025, I really remember this time, plaintiff emailed Mr. Bryan and asked that defendant Daily Mail contact Deadline to ensure that plaintiff would respond before publication of any false or misleading story concerning him. However, Mr. Bryan did not contact Deadline. Right. I just think this is the Daily Mail here. It's not someone that they have literally been sued by Prince Harry. Like, I think they're pretty experienced in dealing with litigation. Despite plaintiff's request, major news outlets, including People, Page Six, The Wrap, and Deadline, published stories portraying plaintiff as having misspoken and characterizing the declaration as an admission of error. I saw it. I literally saw it and screenshotted it. Later that evening, plaintiff texted Mr. Bryan, I know you advised me to let it go and it will eventually pass, but this lie has already damaged my reputation and will have a devastating impact on my career and the relationships I have with all my trusted sources. Sorry. I don't feel bad for him. He's a little snake. Him and Melissa Nathan are two little snakes. They got found out, and that's what this has been about. That's why I've been interested in this from the start. I mean, should we get the world's smallest violin out for this guy? I have with all my trusted sources. Miss Sloan's sending this to various outlets, which are spinning this and painting me as a liar. Mr. Bryan explained that Chief HR Officer Richard Morgan instructed him not to engage, stating, I understand and I want to help, but the mandate to not engage has come from the top. It will open us up to potentially more trouble. My hands are tied. I mean, I just can't believe the irony of this. Later that evening, plaintiff texted Miss Ritchell and Ms. Powell, I just got done talking to my therapist for a while. After the psychic. And then I think that right now would be a good time to take a week off work. I do not want to have a meltdown at work over shit I cannot control right now. Miss Ritchell responded, I completely get it. Take the week. Turn your phone off and take care of yourself. I don't want you to worry about any of this. It will work out. From June 6th to June 16th, 2025, plaintiff took approved medical leave as recommended by his therapist. In or around early June 2025, plaintiff retained attorney Mark Geragos of Geragos and Geragos as independent counsel. I mean, of all the people you could have picked, you picked someone who just happens to be buddies with Bryan Freedman. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Around that same time, plaintiff received another subpoena from Mr. Freedman. Plaintiff advised defendant Daily Mail that he did not want to object to the subpoena and instead wished to provide deposition testimony. Also, isn't Mark Geragos? I thought he was based in New York. I mean, LA. Maybe I'm getting confused. Where's TMZ? TMZ's in LA, right? So, yeah, I thought he was based in LA. Around that time, plaintiff received another subpoena from Mr. Freedman. Plaintiff advised defendant Daily Mail that he did not want to object to the subpoena and instead wished to provide deposition testimony. Nevertheless, defendant Daily Mail's counsel prepared and filed objections on plaintiff's behalf over plaintiff's express wishes, continuing defendant Daily Mail's pattern of overriding plaintiff's decisions regarding his own legal representation and participation in the federal litigation. The phrase poor life choices is coming to mind, seriously. On June 15th, 2025, Mr. Geragos sent defendant Daily Mail a claim letter. Here we go. Notifying the company that plaintiff was a protected whistleblower under New York law and that any adverse employment action taken against him would constitute unlawful retaliation. Nevertheless, defendant Daily Mail then began to retaliate against plaintiff. For example, the next day, defendant Daily Mail materially changed the way plaintiff's work was supervised and evaluated. I mean, yeah, you kind of effed up big time. You really did. So, changing your supervision and evaluation would probably be standard. Like, they're not exactly going to be very trusting of you at this point. Does that mean they retaliated or they responded? Specifically, defendant Daily Mail required that all of plaintiff's article submissions be approved by Mr. Ellis and the attorneys identified in plaintiff's claim letter. Then, on June 26, 2025, Mr. Ellis left plaintiff a voicemail requesting a call. Plaintiff responded via email stating, I want to formally express that any adverse employment action taken against me at this point would be retaliatory as I have an active and ongoing whistleblower complaint. Nevertheless, Mr. Ellis responded to the email, terminating plaintiff effective immediately, stating, you have repeatedly demonstrated a lack of integrity and poor judgment, and we therefore cannot rely on you as a reporter going forward. You don't say. However, defendant Daily Mail's stated reason was pretext. Plaintiff was never counseled, for any performance-related issues, let alone accused of lacking integrity and exercising poor judgment prior to engaging in protected whistleblower activity. Rejecting Mr. Ellis's sexual advance and requesting a reasonable accommodation. In reality, defendant Daily Mail reviewed plaintiff as a complainer and sought to prevent him from blowing the whistle in the future. I don't think a lot of people are going to take you seriously in the future. That's just my very unlegal, experienced, personal opinion based on the facts, based on information and belief. Defendant Daily Mail continued to retaliate against plaintiff post-termination. I remember as well when this was all happening, I didn't really take much notice of it because I was like, this is just stupid. Like, the Daily Mail's never been trustworthy. Anyone that trusts the Daily Mail is dumb. Anyone that reads the Daily Mail shouldn't. They certainly shouldn't take it seriously. It's toxic. It's toxic wanting to know all that stuff about people's personal lives. Seriously. Whether they're too fat, too thin, had surgery, slept with someone. It's just disgusting. But with that being said, it still added a new twist to the story in terms of Bryan Freedman making a false claim, which wouldn't be his first time at the rodeo doing that. But yeah, I just remember when it was all happening and like there was a lot of attention about it, a lot of social media posts going on in the Blake Lively community world or the Justin Baldoni world. And one of the people that was really obsessed with it was Without a Crystal Ball. And I know she is a bit of a, I'll say it politely, she's not all the ticket, let's just say that. And she's extremely litigious. Well, she's involved in a lot of litigation. She also thinks she's an investigative journalist. But yeah, she had a lot to say about him. She was posting emails and calling him a liar. Defendant, I mean, if Without a Crystal Ball calls you a liar, it's really time to hang up your hat, I think. Defendant Daily Mail, with your hat of credibility. Defendant Daily Mail continued to retaliate against plaintiff post-termination. On or about 11 April 2026. I think your first mistake, I don't want to sound like a smart ass, but your first mistake was responding to that text message on Christmas Day. On or about 11 April 2026, Ms. Lively and Mr. Baldoni's legal teams filed a joint pre-trial order containing their prospective trial witness lists, wherein Ms. Lively named plaintiff. Shortly after, on or about April 15th, 2026, defendant Daily Mail removed all references to plaintiff from its portfolio, which included roughly 500 articles and exclusives, as well as any associated links to his own portfolio. This retaliatory action effectively eliminated any professional attribution of plaintiff and destroyed the public record of his work of the past 3.5 years. Defendant Daily Mail would not have discriminated against plaintiff but for his sex and actual and or perceived disability. Defendant Daily Mail would not have retaliated against plaintiff but for his request for a reasonable accommodation and protected whistleblower complaint. As a result of the acts and conduct complained about herein, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer a loss of income, the loss of a salary, home, benefits, and other compensation which such employment entails. Yeah, losing your job sucks. But dude, come on. You wanted your cake and you wanted to eat it too. Like, just face facts. If you had just been honest from the start, you can't go wrong if you're honest. You just can't go wrong. As a result of defendant Daily Mail's actions, plaintiff felt and continues to feel extremely humiliated, degraded, victimized, embarrassed, and emotionally distressed. Think of all of those people. This is giving Perez Hilton. Think of all those people the Daily Mail has shamed. Did you ever, when you were busy texting Snaky Nathan, ever consider they might have feelings like that? Did ya? Did ya? As a result of defendant Daily Mail's discriminatory and intolerable treatment of plaintiffs, he has suffered and continues to suffer severe emotional distress and physical ailments. I want to know what disability he has. As a result of the acts and conduct complained of herein, plaintiff has also suffered future pecuniary losses, emotional pain, suffering, inconvenience, loss of enjoyment of life, and other non-pecuniary losses. Defendant Daily Mail's conduct has been malicious, willful, outrageous, and conducted with full knowledge of the law. As such, plaintiff demands punitive damages as against defendant Daily Mail. As a first cause of action under state law, whistleblower retaliation, plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and re-alleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs of this complaint as if more fully set forth herein at length. New York labor law states in pertinent part prohibitions: an employer shall not take any retaliatory action against an employee, whether or not within the scope of the employee's job duties, because such employee does any of the following: discloses or threatens to disclose to a supervisor or to a public body an activity, policy, or practice of the employer that the employee reasonably believes is in violation of the law, rule, or regulation that the employee reasonably believes poses a substantial and specific danger to the public health or safety, objects to or refuses to participate in any such activity, policy, or practice. He is never going to prove this. I'm calling it now. Calling it now. Like they said, he went, what do they call it? He went rogue when he started messaging, when he joined in that group chat. That had nothing to do with journalism. He should have literally sought legal advice then, or advice of his employers. And like, I you know, I don't know what his actual employment status was, but I imagine he's had to sign a contract. This is giving Jennifer Abel as well. Like, do these people read their contracts when they sign up for these $100,000 a year jobs? Like, Jesus. As a second cause of action under state law discrimination, it's like the Daily Mail are gonna fire you and then say, oh, by the way, you can still have all your articles. That's yours. That's on us. Don't worry. I think him and Jen Abel should team up and start their own company and see how they get on. As a second cause of action, oh no, Jennifer Abel has got her own company. Yeah, sorry. Lucky her. As a second cause of action under state law, discrimination. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs of this complaint as if more fully set forth herein at length. Executive Law 296 provides that it shall be an unlawful discriminatory practice for an employer or licensing agency because of an individual's sex and disability to refuse or hire or employ or to bar or to discharge from employment such individual or to discriminate against such individual in compensation or in terms, conditions, or privileges of employment. They were literally giving him free attorney representation at pretty high level. Defendant Daily Mail engaged in an unlawful discriminatory practice by discriminating against plaintiff on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability, together with creating a hostile work environment. Sorry. I'm only laughing because if he thinks that's a hostile working environment, wow, what a sheltered life he must have led. Just a bit of hair is just annoying me so much. Hostile work environment, retaliation, sexual harassment, and unlawful termination. Plaintiff hereby makes a claim against defendant Daily Mail under all of the applicable paragraphs of Executive Law Section 296. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs of this complaint as if more fully set forth herein at length. New York State Executive Law 296 provides that it shall be an unlawful discriminatory practice for any person engaged in any activity to which this section applies to retaliate or discriminate against any person because he or she has opposed any practices forbidden under this article. Defendant Daily Mail engaged in an unlawful and retaliatory discriminatory practice by retaliating and otherwise discriminating against plaintiff on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability, together with creating a hostile work environment, retaliation, whistleblower retaliation, sexual harassment, interference with a protected right, and unlawful termination. Plaintiff hereby makes a claim against defendant Daily Mail under all of the applicable paragraphs of Executive Law Section 296. As a fourth cause of action under the New York City Administrative Code, discrimination. I think he should read Celeste Smith's that was a mosquito. Celeste Smith's filing against another one against Wayfarer if he wants to know about discrimination, which they are refuting and trying to get dismissed as well. Anyway, it shall be an unlawful discriminatory practice for an employer or an employee of agent thereof because of the actual or perceived sex and disability of any person to refuse to hire, to employ, or to bar, or to discharge from employment such person, or to discriminate against such person in compensation or in terms, conditions, or privileges of employment. I wonder what Judge Judy would have to say about this one as well. Because I just have a feeling, is there going to be anything about the disability? I don't want to, I don't even want to say this, but is he saying because he needed time off work, he had a disability? Defendant Daily Mail engaged in an unlawful discriminatory practice in violation of New York City Administrative Code Title 8 by creating and maintaining discriminatory working conditions and otherwise discriminating against plaintiff on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability, together with creating a hostile work environment, retaliation, sexual harassment, and unlawful termination. I don't think this is what these laws were designed for. I'm just saying. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs. It shall be Title 8. It shall be unlawful discriminatory practice for any person engaged in any activity to which this chapter applies to reiterate he really thinks he's been discriminated against. I mean, to quote the words of Mark Garagos and Bryan Freedman, this is a money grab. There's just no other way to describe it. He's already said he doesn't have a job. Defendant Daily Mail engaged in an unlawful and retaliatory discriminatory practice by retaliating and otherwise discriminating against plaintiff on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability, together with creating a hostile work environment, retaliation, whistleblower retaliation, sexual harassment, interference with a protected right, and unlawful termination. As a sixth cause of action under the New York City Administrative Code, interference with a protected right. I don't even know if I can be bothered to read it because I honestly didn't think this. I thought it was going to be juicy. I didn't think it started off really juicy, and then it just. I'm like, what? You what, mate? Well, that's it. Defendant Daily Mail further violated the section cited herein as set forth by interfering with plaintiff's statutory right to testify in a court, proceeding pursuant to a duly issued subpoena. I mean, okay, that bit, I'm kind of like, maybe there's something in that. I just need to understand the context better. But maybe if something happens, I don't know why there's so many bugs in here tonight. Maybe if something happens. No, there's not going to be any more. There's not going to be anything more coming out, any more depositions or anything, testimonies to show. To throw any more light on what he's talking about. Is there? I don't think so. Anyway, no one can blame this one on Blake Lively. Literally, this one is on him. But yeah, I mean, I don't quite understand why he done that. That's the only bit I don't understand. But he hated Leslie Sloan, I remember. He hated everyone. Anyway, wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests a judgment against defendant Daily Mail, declaring that defendant Daily Mail engaged in an unlawful employment practice prohibited by the by discriminating against plaintiff on the basis of his sex and actual and or perceived disability. I mean, okay. Awarding damages to plaintiff for all lost wages and benefits, past and future back pay and front pay, and to otherwise make plaintiff whole for any losses suffered as a result of such unlawful employment practice. I'm sure they have a due process in their workplace. They're the Daily Mail. They're not Wayfarer Productions. Jury demand. Plaintiff requests a jury trial on all issues to be tried. This ain't going to fly. Okay, so Jesse S. Weinstein, Arce Law Group, PC. Okay, well, that was highly, highly amusing. I'm really glad that I read it. And just another little piece of the puzzle of this endless litigation involving Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer parties, and their various publicists. Okay, that's me signing off. I'll speak to y'all soon. Bye.